Hey, welcome back to Album April. It's April 13th, and today I listened to Illmatic by Nas. For those of you who don't know, Illmatic is basically the revolver of hip-hop, an album that is not only lauded as amazing, but also incredibly influential. Illmatic was his debut album at age 20, giving him the first taste of that rap career he'd been trying to get in his teenage years. And that's really surprising considering that my first impression of Illmatic is that it was made by a seasoned professional. Nas's flow and lyricism on this album is top-notch. When hip-hop nerds talk about how when rap used to be good, I imagine that they're thinking of music like the stuff from Illmatic. There are complex flows and multisyllabic rhyme schemes all over this album. It's the kind of rap that feels very rhythmic, very musical, and it's complemented by the production. Apparently multiple different producers worked on this album, but all of them did a good job. Purely when it comes to making rap that sounds good, I don't think there's anything more that they could have done. The lyrics tell the story of a young man who does see music as his passion, but he's raised in a really rough environment, inner city Queens. And that rough upbringing has affected the way that he sees the world. That's illustrated in the first full song of the album, New York State of Mind. That song made the area seem like a war zone. He also goes in depth on the things that he experienced in Memory Lane. There are also a couple brag rap songs. Halftime is pretty much a standard brag rap song, but he's talking about how good he is at rapping and he's demonstrating it. And the album ends with Ain't Hard to Tell, which is another brag rap about how it's very easy to see that he's going places. But my favorite song from Illmatic is Life's a Bitch. And that's a word that I don't know if I've ever said on my channel before. But anyway, that song tells a story about someone's mindset changing as they grow up. There are two different parts of it. The first one is rapped by the guest rapper AZ, and it comes from a very adolescent, juvenile perspective, a sort of live fast, die young sort of way of viewing the world. There's a sort of nihilism to it, the idea that life is ultimately meaningless, so you should just live as hard as you can while you're still alive. But then the second half of the song is rapped by Nas himself, and it has a bit more of a mature look at things. In this verse, he reflects on his teenage years, and now he sees the world in a more positive way. He's living a life beyond the things that he knew, and he appreciates life now in a way that he hadn't before. There's also jazz cornet playing in the song, and the player of that cornet is his father, a jazz musician. Aside from being a great song in its own right, this really shows how personal this album is to Nas. And I don't think there were any songs on Illmatic that I didn't like. One possible criticism is that there are so many words being said in such a relatively quick manner that it's kind of hard to get everything, but I feel like this is an album that's meant to be listened to multiple times. But even with just one listen on its own, there is still a lot you can take from it. So when we're asking, does this album hold up? Absolutely. This album has a lot to say, and it knows how it wants to say it. Rap is not my genre of choice. I like some of it, but in general, it's not my thing. But this album was very good. The last song on the album is right. It's not hard to tell that it's only the beginning. Nas is still revered and still putting out music even today. Okay, thank you all for listening. I'll see you guys tomorrow.